I would like to speak about the two enigmatic signs depicted on both sides on Skaryna's head on his very famous portrait published twice in his Prague Bible editions. For your convenience, I will refer to these two signs as a trapezoid-like sign. We can see it on Skaryna's left and on ours right. And the opposite side, I will name the triangle-like sign, so that you could immediately identify which sign I'm referring to. Well, the main focus of my paper will be the sign on Skaryna's right, reader's left, so our triangle-like sign. It is also present in his Prague and Vilnius editions. It has been used many times by Skaryna himself, but the essence and the main meaning of it remains basically unknown, because many different explanations have been proposed for it. So you have a brief survey of these explanations on my handout. First, it could be medical weighing scales, and it would be very natural for Skaryna, being a practical doctor, to use this kind of scales in his medical activities. Then the second explanation is that it could be a combination of two different shapes of Cyrillic letter B, the cone and mirror shapes united into single image, with possible meaning that it could refer to Vilnius Burgomaster Jakub Babic, in whose house was organized Skaryna's typography in Vilnius. Well, we could raise a question why a sign which could refer to Jakub Babic may be connected to some future events in Skaryna's life, because this sign has been published in Prague, and the Vilnius typography was established several years later in Vilnius. But still, we have this kind of explanation. The third explanation would say that that could be a ligature, combination of two Cyrillic letters D and T, with possible meaning doctor, because Skaryna had this academic title and he was proud of having it, and he mentioned it several times in his editions. Then it could be a representation of Cyrillic letter T, with no concrete meaning proposed by scholars. Then it could be a ligature, a combinations of Cyrillic letter B and O, with possible meanings. Vilnius Chancellor Bogdan Onko, who is known for having sponsored at least a part of Skaryna's Prague editions. And finally, this image, I mean the triangle-like sign, is extremely similar to the famous Kollontai coat of arms. Belonged to Kollontai noble family of Bryansk origin, but they later moved and settled in the Grand Duchy in Lithuania. But unfortunately, we know absolutely nothing about possible connections of this noble family to either Skaryna himself or his Prague or Vilnius edition. So it's just a guess. But all these explanations are based on the common assumption that the triangle-like sign must have a secular meaning and represent an attribute of either Skaryna himself or some other people somehow related to his editions. However, this assumption is neither proven or even likely, because it ignores the religious context of Skaryna's Bible editions where it had been published. Well, we have an impression that while printing the Bible text in Prague and later in Vilnius, Skaryna had the only intention to produce, to express his personal, things or signs or emblems or ideas connected not with the Bible text to be printed by him, but with his own personality. Yes, it's the well-known fact that he printed his own portrait. It was absolutely new things in European history of book printing when the editor dared to put his own portrait in his Bible edition. It is true. We know about his patriotic feeling towards the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and especially for his native town of Polocks. It is true, but still, he was the editor of the Bible, of the sacral text, and it would be natural to think that his main intention should be connected with the contents of the books he was going to publish, and not for his personality. So these ideas proposed while explaining this enigmatic sign has more to do with our days secular thinking, what our main purpose and intentions and to self-presentation and so on. But this idea was absolutely rare, extremely rare, or even nearly not existing at the time when Skaryna was active. So, in a contrast to all these previous explanations, I will try to give arguments for a religious meaning of these two signs, and then propose a new explanation of the triangle-like one. Several years ago, I came across a text written in Old Church Slavonic by the famous leader of early Russian Old Believers movement, who wrote a petition to both the Muscovite Tsar and the Patriarch in 1669. It means a century and a half later than Skaryna had published his Bible editions. But this text contains basically the same image because it has a drawing, a picture, a representation of the trapezoid-like sign with an explanation that it is a Calvary cross resting on the Old Testament tabernacle, and with additional information that this time of the tabernacle with a cross atop it is venerated by the Catholics and other heretics instead of the cross itself. Wow, it's brilliant. It's not a modern explanation, but it's a medieval one. And the shape of this sign is almost absolutely identical with that we can see on Skaryna's left, the trapezoid-like side. So I have written an article about this, and I have discussed this similarity and connection with the sign represented on Skaryna's portrait. I have given the reference. You can read this article. But we can learn from this research experience that at least one of these two signs is on combinations of two images, both having a religious meaning, and one of them has a connection to the Jewish, Hebrew, or Old Testament tradition, and another one represents the Christian, the New Testament tradition. It's a combination of these two, which forms the trapezoid-like sign. If really it is really so, then we have a clue how to approach the opposite side, the triangle-like one, which I would like to explain in a similar way. We can expect that this second sign is also a combination of two different images. One of them may be related to the Old Testament tradition, and another one to the New Testament tradition. And if we see this sign with these eyes, we can immediately identify these two figures. First, it's the Equilateral Triangle, which is one of the oldest emblems and symbols of the Christian Trinity, for obvious reasons, because it's a figure made of three sides which are absolutely equal, but at the same time forming a single figure, like the three distant persons of the Holy Trinity represent the one and inseparable divine essence. So it's religious interpretation. It's not my invitation. Even I give some citations from Weber's old monograph on church symbolism. And the other sign is the Latin cross minus his upper arm, which is normally called the Tau cross. The name Tau is related to the name of the last Hebrew character, which has the same shape as this kind of cross. But it's very old form of the cross. And this type of cross is also have alternative names like Old Testament cross or anticipatory cross because of his pre-Christian origin. And it is thought to be the original type of the cross where Jesus was crucified. So if we can agree of this kind of explanations, we will see very deep religious meaning of this kind of combinations. And a combination of the cross and a triangle is well known in the religious European tradition. And the first citation from the monograph I mentioned, you may see that several types of the cross may be used in this combination. This combination may vary in the kind of ligature between these two different figures but nevertheless it is well-known religious sign, but not secular, but with a religious meaning. And the last thing I would say in this connection is that the same type of cross, what is commonly named the Tau cross, has many different alternative namings in the Christian tradition. And it is extremely interesting that one of these names is St. Francis cross. And it is a well-known symbolic heritage of the order of Friars Minor. And it is a very old idea that the first name of Skaryna himself, Francis, coincides with the name of the heavenly patron of the Franciscan monastic order. But it was just a guess, because we don't have a single fact which would prove this possible connection. But now we see that the Tau cross being interpreted at the same time as an Old Testament symbol, very important for the Christian tradition also, but nevertheless, his origins may be connected with the pre-Christian Jewish tradition, has a very strong Christian meaning directly connected with the Franciscan monastic order. And it is, I perfectly understand, that this connection is not a direct one, it's an indirect one, but it's the only fact that could support the old idea of a possible connection between between Skaryna's first name, Francis, and the symbolic legacy of the orders of Friars Minor or the Franciscans, as they are known everywhere in Europe. Thank you very much for your attention.